Hello, friends. Today we are here to discuss the Great Ordeal, chapters 12 and 13. To keep the chapter straight. So it is my first time reading the Aspect Emperor series, and today we are here with Daniel and Katerina. Katerina, it's your chance to. I'm trying to fix my bad intro from last week, so I'll pass it to you.
Well, I don't think my record's much better than yours, to be honest. I'm Katerina. This is my first time reading this book, and below me is Daniel, who has read the series how many times?
A few. I've read it a few times.
Fair enough. So, as usual, we're minimalistic in our backgrounds and in our introductions and outros. But chapters 12 and 13, it felt like a lot happened. But when I went back and looked at my notes, I didn't have that many notes. But I felt like a lot occurred. But before we started the stream, or before we started recording, we were discussing Saban, with Katerina's favorite character. So, do you want to address that first, or do you want to start on chapter 12?
Maybe let's go in chronological order.
Okay.
Let's start with chapter 12.
Okay.
One
So,
reason why I bet you might not have as many notes is because it was like a 40-page battle almost, right?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I will say the chapter 12 it took me maybe 3 days to read. Like it felt like it was like at the end I also don't think that that much happened in it, but it felt very dense and it was pretty difficult to read for me. I don't know how you felt about it. Um but it took me a really long time to get through it.
It almost read. There was portions that read like a horror book, like with Soriel and his, kind of what he went through. But yeah, it did feel it had like a different pace to it, or it felt a little different.
Yeah, and you also got the sort of the interludes with the songs or the poems.
Yeah. For some reason, that reminded me of Tom Bombadil from
Mm.
The Lord of the Rings. But he wasn't singing good songs, and he wasn't a jolly guy that was married to like a glowing queen. He was the boatman.
Sounds like a interesting guy to hang out with, though, right? I mean, I'm sure he has some stories.
I isn't not able to speak anymore? Like I think
Mm.
isn't it that he can only sing, but it's not able to communicate with people or with
Mm.
other non men anymore. I think that's what they said.
No, I missed that. I thought he was
Yeah.
just crazy and just like to sing.
There's lots of layers of brokenness down below Isterbint.
Yeah, that was pretty. Like already from the previous chapters, like we sort of got a sense of how desolate Disturbance was, but it wasn't until we went to the very bottom that you realize what has become of the non-men. Like what is like the lowest point that some of them can go to.
They are really interesting, right? In this whole journey, it's almost like the curtains got pulled back on this huge world that we didn't know existed or didn't really know what to expect. So in that sense, it's cool to see so much that we didn't, underneath the surface that we didn't know was there.
What does that Lord Orunis, is that his name? At the end says, I have ate 10,000 swine. So he's just been down there eating pigs for who knows how many years.
I mean, I was thinking about it. And it's like if you eat a swine every day, that's like 1,000 swines every 3 4 years. So 10,000 swines, it's not that long actually. Isn't it? It's like 3 decades, maybe.
No big deal. I was a little confused on where all the swine came from.
That's what the boatman's doing. He's like throwing carcasses just as the boat clicks along the chain.
But where is he getting the swine from? Is what I was. Is it like a farm? Like a are they
That
breeding them or?
must be what one of the Umama's jobs.
Hmm.
It talked about how they used to be like as deep as they went. It used to be like a holy place, but it's just got worse and worse. And now the slaves do other jobs. And I think it even talked about how one day they would like stop worshipping them and just leave once they all went crazy, which was inevitable.
It felt pretty crazy. Yeah, it was like just like descending into like madness, like different levels of madness. But the what's his name, or Oirunas, he seemed pretty sane at, like, considering like the other non-men that we like meet at each level, which are basically like not really, um I mean they're like more like animals than people. Oirunas seemed to have it pretty together.
Yeah, he seemed to be not as crazy as the rest, which
He does kill his son by accident, but who's who's
mistakes were
counting?
made.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was counting.
I think they like alluded to the fact that I don't remember what they called it, but the where they made him live forever like affected the tall differently. So they just had a different level of madness.
Yeah. So what exactly are the tall? Like are there just like are there just like giant breed of non-men, or are they even non-men? Do we know anything about them? Will we know anything about them? I was very surprised. There's no one, I don't think no one ever mentioned giants before.
They're non-men or non-men related. He killed his kid, and his kid was the last
Regular
born
size.
non-men.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just seemed to come out of nowhere. Like I did not expect there to be a giant non-man at the very bottom of Esterbent.
Yeah, all of a sudden Sorville gets down there and just sees a dead carcass and a shield as big as him. Or I think it said a shield as big as half of the boat and a sword as tall as him. And then he just grabbed his head and yanked on it.
This was wild.
Yeah, for a second I was really worried that he just snapped Sorwiggle's head off, and then I was very happy to find out that he just took the Amiel off.
Not very
For
nicely. Sounds like he's pretty scarred up now.
Yeah, seems like he might have skinned his face.
eh,
Which poor Sorwheel.
he goes through a lot in this chapter, and I was for a minute there I was wondering if he was never going to be sword because it kind of mentioned something like he sword wheel is gone, like it's the person he was is, but it seems like he's still around somehow.
Yeah, I am curious about that. Like I wonder how much of how much of the memories that he got from the helm, like how much that has stayed with him, and like is like how much is he going to remember, and how much has it changed his personality, or even if the non-man is still somewhere living inside of him, or if he's gone with the helmet.
And there was something with Surwa. It seems like Surwa. There's a section that talks about her being the greatest witch to ever walk the three seas, and she was the master stroke, the monstrous cargo. Um, Kind of seemed like no one like Sorwheel or Moingus didn't really matter to Kellis at least. It was all about Surwa. That there's something she's for as much as he doesn't. Looking back, I know he wasn't he was like an absentee dad, but he did send her to the to be trained into the schools and everything. So it seems like maybe there's something special about Surwa that she has a role to play and everything. That she's not a disposable kid. She's
Well, she is. I would say she's certainly one of his most competent tools. Like like she's very powerful and therefore also very useful for Callus. But I also was curious um, what exactly her mission was because I don't think they really explained it. They talked about that she was supposed to do something in Ishwal, but I wasn't sure if she was supposed to like it was she there to destroy it or was she there to seduce the non-man? Um, why did Callus send her there? He clearly sent her there for a reason. What
Just,
exactly that was, I yeah
just
didn't
show
remember.
them his portion.
Okay, well, what does that mean?
uh, to she sang and made demonstration of her father's dread portion. Yeah, I'm not really sure either.
Well, if he sent her there to destroy not Ishterabinth, if he sent her there to destroy Ishterabinth, then it's I mean Sorwheel kind of did most of the job, or the giant non-man did, but it's I mean I do understand that they sent like Sorwheel probably was not as important to them, but it seems like they lucked out that he was there.
Yeah.
We get the little portions with Serway and Kellis, whether it's like a dream or an old memory or a dream of an old memory. And she's like thinking about giving up and says she failed. And he says, well, you haven't really looked yet. And I guess it's debatable whether he knew that the non-men had already sided with the consult or not. And if he did, then maybe he had to send in a tool. I don't know. It's hard to say anything at this moment. Just gotta
Choosing your
keep.
words carefully. Yeah.
No. I mean, but if that was the plan, I'm still, I still quite don't understand why they chose Sorwheel to be the enemy. Uh, because they could, I mean, there were a lot of other scions, or well, I mean, at least there were a couple of them left, including Zoronga, who probably hated the Enesrimber very openly, whereas everyone just assumed that Sorwheel has become like the believer king. So I still don't understand why Kellis decided to send Sorwheel. I think they would have had it much easier if they sent someone else, or at least Sura would have had it much easier. Like she wouldn't have had to sleep with Moengus to make Sorwheel start hating her. You're muted.
So I was drinking my coffee and I forgot to unmute myself. No, I think Sorwheel is a like a soft target. He's like malleable. Like they can do whatever they want with him, and he won't. He's because we saw last week during the other chapters. What is 8 through 10 or which 7 through 10 or 11? He flip flops a lot. He's easily manipulated. So maybe that's why he's there.
Do you think if they wouldn't have sent Sorville and they would have sent someone else, the pact would have been honored and they wouldn't be sided with the consult now? Or do you think that they still all would have been slaves, only the guy would have never, the tall would have never came up and created the circumstances to give Serway the chance to show her father's dread portion?
Hmm.
I don't know, but I kind of just assumed that the non-men were never going to uh honor the what's the name of the ritual?
I think it was like the Neom.
Yeah, yeah, right, the neon. Yeah, I got the sense that they were never like that. That was their plan all along, to just take the Anasarim were children hostage. And
Because obviously they've been sided with the consult at least since they invaded Ishul, however long ago that was, probably.
yeah, but yeah, I do, I guess I do believe that if Sorwheel hadn't been sent there, then Sirwa and Moengus would have just died in
Hmm.
Ishtarabinth, and the giant. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe Oinaral would have found a way to um, awaken his father. Um, but I think probably Sirwa and Moengus would have been dead.
What do you?
Which, speaking of Moengus,
Hmm.
Oh, I want. Do you remember? Do you guys remember the trip into the first non-men under under mansion with
I mean the one
Akamian,
in Thousand Thought,
yeah,
or
Akamian and the Skin Eaters, and
okay, that one.
how when they got out, they all had changed a little bit. Do you think that's like to what degree is that going to happen in this underground manor?
Hmm.
Is it going to happen? As you were just saying, Moingus like looked at Serway and didn't seem to even recognize her at the very end.
Seems like everyone's losing their minds somehow, doesn't it? Like whether it's in the mansion or whether it's eating
The
shrank.
meat.
Yeah, the GMO approved meat. We'll get to that, but yeah, it seems like everyone's losing their minds. Like everyone's losing something. Like no, everyone's changing, and not in a good way.
Yeah, I do believe that they have changed. Um, Even Sirwa, who is part Dunane, seem to have been affected what she gone through, and Moengus is not even Dunyan, so I can't imagine how he's going to cope with all the trauma and pain that he suffered in those dungeons. And Sorwheel is just like he gone through like an entire like lifetime of like millennia and millennia of a non-man, non-man's memories and experience. Like, I mean, it actually, I mean, it made me really tearful actually.
Hmm.
Like, it was just right at the beginning of the chapter when he sees the Emil's old lover, like the guy he like loved and lived with for like thousands of years, and he sees him decapitated by Oinaral. That was like super short, but like made me super sad. to like just imagine like the emotion that he had to go through at the moment.
Very bleak. Looking back on this chapter, you're right, Katerina. It is a dense chapter. Lots of things, and like you mentioned too, a lot of things happen in a short period of time. It's not really emphasized; it just happens, and then we move on because there's so much going on.
Yeah, I don't think I even learned. I remember at the end, like last week at the end of the disturbance chapter, I was trying to like understand where there was like like it seemed like there was like sorcery like chasing something, sorceress chasing Sorwheel, and he was like running, and then like the non-man exploded. I don't even know that we found out who that was or what was chasing them. Um, so there were a lot of things, like a lot of like things that seem pretty important, but we just glanced over.
Or the non-men falling and Sorwell asking if they're committing suicide and him saying no, suicide's that's not something we ever do.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then
that too. Yeah.
not knowing exactly what was causing them to fall off the ledge.
We are 5.5 books in, maybe a little bit more. I'm trying to remember. I can't think of any point. We've never had a like a POV of the console, right? We've never seen a,
Well,
I
or
think we
have we?
have
we've
once
Okay,
when the Synthes was flying. It was like a bird's eye kind of point of view.
but as far as their like plotting or planning or I, I don't, because we hear a lot. I mean, they're such a major player in the series, and we haven't had very much of them. It's kind of strange.
yeah, not in any detail. Like it's all been very mysterious so far. I agree with you. Um, but yeah, I think we've seen the world through the eyes of the. Is it Orang? I think it's Orang. We did get his POV a few times.
Hmm.
An
Right.
alien point of view. And we got to see him at the end of these chapters.
Yeah, that's also was something that well we're gonna talk about it later, but it's just what another thing that sort of like just happened was like one paragraph and then you forget about it because so much else is going on.
I really like the scene where the tall finally shows up and I think just like strikes his sword against the mountain and sparks Ninsiljaris, the new king under the mountain, because he's got all the oil all over him. He just like lights on
On
fire
fire.
instantly.
I shouldn't
Shouldn't,
laugh, but it was kind of funny.
it was
That's pretty
good.
funny. Yeah,
It's his love for the oil.
yeah, that was pretty funny.
um, so do you think that Yatwer had any role in this, or has she completely abandoned Sorwheel at this point, and this has just been his doing?
I think not done with Sword Wheel just yet. I don't think they give up on him that easy. I think it's gone. He's gone too far for them to give up on him.
Yeah, there was thing at the end where like Sir was she's bound to the ground and there's this quarry flying towards her and then just before it hits her the floor drops and it misses her and I felt like that was maybe too much of a coincidence, but I don't know. uh,
There's also like it might have been two more or one more like reference to the stork. It just described
Oh yeah,
a white bird with orange beak. Didn't say stork, but
I think it said what? I think it said it represented life or something like that, like hope or life or something. Yeah, they did mention the stork.
fertility, yeah, or
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's where isn't it where when they're sort of hanging on one of like the ropes or chains, and Sorrel sort of lets go, but then the stork shows up and somehow he miraculously he manages to land on the hall. I think that's where the stork that's where I remember the stork showed up.
Seemed like a wild boat ride, and they were only in the water for a second.
I got really confused. Like, was there any water or not?
That's what I was wondering because I kind of in my mind I thought of it like as a river with like banks and but then it seems like they're on the ground and that he's the boatman, but are they on a boat or because it seems like they're not on a boat because there's so much
Yeah,
happening.
I also thought that was a river, but then they were like going, like they were sort of descending down into the abyss. But then there was a river again and some water. So what was I had like a pretty hard time imagining how exactly the space looked like. I'm not gonna lie.
I can send you a really rough picture of what I seen of the boat. Someone
Hmm.
posted a picture of the boat the other day, and throughout the chapter, you keep hearing like the clack, clack, clack. What do you guys think that is?
Well, I thought it was the chain that the boat was tied to. That was I mean, I assume there's some mechanism that gradually lowers it towards the bottom. So I assume that what it was.
That's
So
what I
it's
thought too, like a big chain.
so it's like a boat on a chain, right? But at the end, they like veer off of the chain, and it talks about Sorwell like looking down and seeing. Forgot exactly what he's seen. It was water, but in the water's reflection, he's seen like the abyss. He called it, what did it? Oblivion, reaching ever outward or something. So I think like at the end, the boat comes off of the chain, and they're like wading through a the still waters at the bottom of the cave, and then it beaches, and that's when Sorbil grabs Oineral's arm and like stops him so he doesn't
Hmm.
like fall forward. Then they get off, and there's like a white sand beach.
Yeah, that whole thing was really confusing.
It's horror. It's
Yeah.
horror adjacent for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, it felt quite disorienting. And then you have like all these statues surrounding them, and then sort of just they change, and it's like they all like looking towards them, and
Sorbil
you
falls. Sorbil falls asleep, and there's a bunch of little baby statues,
Yeah,
like all marching up to him.
it's crazy, wild stuff.
And
yeah.
all the while, the boatman just sings in the background, except for when they went through the one part where no one can talk. So he didn't sing at all then.
Didn't they warn them that if they talk, they'll kill him?
I think so. But I think for me, my favorite thing about this chapter was just I don't know if I call it transformation, but there's like a lot of like realizations that Soriel goes through. Um, the way that he sort of embraces, well, maybe embrace is not the right word, but like he's sort of forced to look at himself through the eyes of the Amiel, and kind of like realize how pathetic his life is and insignificant compared to like the non-man's life, and just like not in the entire non-man civilization. And like as when you ask like before if I think if we think that they will have been changed by the experience, I think that seemed pretty life changing, like to suddenly see yourself through the eyes of someone else and someone who is so different and has such a different perspective on life than you, or than a like a 17-year-old kid has.
Yeah, how insignificant the death of his dad is, because he's like a spark in a bonfire, just insignificant.
Yeah, I think there's like one part where he's comparing the loss of his father to the loss or the rage that the non-man felt or feels, and it's just incomparable. Like the emotion is so big that he cannot really even encompass it and comprehend it.
Mhm.
One's a rock and one's a mountain.
Yeah. So I really enjoy that, the perspective that he gets, um, and that he also, and it ties into like how he sort of comes to understand that Yatwer probably is not all seeing, and that Kellis is actually probably trying to save them, although that's still uncertain.
Depends on who you ask. But it did feel like Sorwheel was losing his identity. Like he wasn't Sorwheel anymore. They kept, he's referred to the son of Horwheel instead of Sorwheel. So he's trying to kind of battling with his identity and his control of his own mind, his soul.
Yeah, yeah, but then at the end of the chapter, when Sir was looking at him, um, it's like she sees him after like a long time, and she looks at him and she says that he was real.
I
And I
think
was
she
wondering,
called him like a hero or something like that.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you're right.
And right before that, she had like the moment where she like screamed, but she didn't do it as a dunyan, as a trick. It was like a real scream, and kind of like the moment Kellis broke on the circumfix. Maybe broke.
Yeah, I felt it's that's a good comparison.
And then she looks up and calls Sorwell a hero, right? So is she broken, or is Sorwell more than he was? I guess, or is it a little bit of both? And I guess Moingus is less than he was. It seems like significantly less than he was.
Yeah, when she looks at Mwangas and the way she describes how like she's surprised to feel something, that was very reminiscent of how Callus was surprised that he was like he was crying about Sirwa dying, or not Sirwa, Sirway dying on the circumfix. But I don't know what it means for Sirwa, and I don't know what it means for Sorwil. Um,
The circumference has been mentioned a few times that it seems to be mentioned a lot more because when it happened it was a big event, but it seems like it's been brought up again and again. So
It's scripture now. It talked about how Serway knew, like a secret hardly anyone knew, that they painted the walls black to accent Kellis's haloed hands.
yeah, and they also talk about, no wait, that's a different chapter. Never mind. We'll
I
talk
guess
about it in
wild,
a minute.
yeah, wild chapter though.
I guess we're about there.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Well, okay. So they also when Coyotes is having a conversation with Proyas, he talks about like how he and the other NS Remember kids, how they spend like a really long time trying to figure out what Kellis was about, and that they finally realized, or that Theliopa realized that like he wasn't. I don't know. She doesn't say he wasn't real, but she says that he didn't exist, that he was always someone different depending on the circumstance or depending on what the situation required, I think.
It's on three. That's actually one of the portions I had tabbed. It's funny you mentioned that.
Okay.
It says he is an intricate web of deceptions and stratagems bound on a something principle of salvation.
Which is interesting. It would suggest that at least the Anestor children believe that Kellis' goal really is salvation. But I guess maybe the question is salvation for whom?
And there's a part where
Yeah.
Serway says, "What if I fail, Father?" And he says, "Then spend your last moment on prayer."
For me,
For everything. So, is that Kellis's maddened delusion, or is there some portion of reality to that? I guess.
portion of reality to what?
That if
His
Surwa fails, then we're screwed, kind of, right?
Yeah, to the same thing, to Kellis believing that he is trying to achieve salvation for everyone, no matter what he has to do to get it.
I don't know. Maybe. Um it seems like he believes that that's what he's doing.
Does he though, or is he
I
just
don't know.
his manipulations and what is it? Intricate webs of deceptions and stratagems. So with him, you never really know what his intentions are, what he's trying to do.
But we got a mostly Dunyan perspective on what they think he's trying to do.
Yeah. But
And
yeah, but it's sorry.
it was Theliopa who came up with it, which is interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was dressed way better than Proyas
Correct.
when she came up with it.
Yeah, it was interesting to read that perspective on Kellis because I don't know, the way they talked about him, it seemed like he wasn't. It felt like he wasn't a real person. Like he wasn't he wasn't a person with a goal. It seemed he was like, I don't know, like I guess. Well, he talks about himself as a place. So I don't know. The sense I got from it is that he's like like maybe he's like too entangled in what, in like the grand, like in the thousandfold thought, I guess, that he's not like his own person anymore, like that everything he is sort of subjugated to that one purpose. I don't know,
This is
it made me more confused about like what exactly he seems to be like more than just a person, or less, I don't know.
This is a really interesting string of thought.
So
Thank you.
if Kellis is a can be a place, is he the outside?
I don't. I mean, isn't his goal what he wants is salvation? Wouldn't his goal be? Isn't his goal kind of to destroy the outside? I-
I'm just throwing things out there.
To
Yeah.
close the granary and let the fields grow wild, not let
Yeah.
any demons feast on souls anymore.
Maybe he doesn't intend to live.
That would go along with your theory that everyone dies.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like what I'm getting is like he's kind of like he's maybe like more approaching. It's like he's approaching godhood. Maybe it's like he exists over. Like he's not just a person. Like it's like he exists over. Like he almost exists like over time and over place. So it does seem reminiscent of like the way that the gods are described as well.
Mhm.
And he's been to the outside and he's talked to the other demons and seemed like he did okay there. So I guess if I don't know if he decided to move to the outside, maybe they would accept him. He would be like the 101st god.
They they offered him some baby once, I think, when he was there. The spoiler I accidentally gave last week, it mentioned it finally. Did you guys notice that?
No.
Which one are you talking about?
It's a part where Sabon is looking at Kellis, and he's. It says the decapitant's heads are swinging on his hips, black mouths working.
Oh. But I thought we'd seen the heads before, the demon
Yeah,
head.
and it it has reference to things on his, like the head swinging on his hips a couple times. But you looked it up last week and you said that the word decapitant wasn't in there yet.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, no, no, no. Yeah, it was right. It was the chapter 13 where it appeared for the first time in this book.
Hmm.
I don't know if if he'd referred to them as decapitants before. Um,
I really feel like it had once, but just like alluded to it, like he likes to do, like an offhanded reference here and there until.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they're decapitated heads. So I just didn't put the two and two together.
I
But
did like the. I'm sorry, Daniel. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Oh, so I did like the arc fall. How arc fall changed everything and the the effect it had on the world. Like it seemed like a because we hear about it, but now we get more details on how destructive it was and what it did to the planet, and it seems like a dinosaur level extinction event. And I hadn't really thought of it that way until now.
Yeah. Also, Gujara Simoy was kind of a dick. Like the Viri mention gets bombed essentially, and he's like, "I'm not gonna help you guys, even if you're starving, because my honor is more important or whatever." It's not that's not very but that's not very nice behavior for the greatest non-man king to have ever lived.
They don't seem very compassionate.
That was even before they got like the womb plague curse. It was before any of that happened. They were already kind of dicks. They thought of men as like cattle, pretty much.
You look at that character in the glossary and it says kind of a dick. Yeah,
But
it
yeah,
seems like the non-men have it.
I did enjoy the little bits of information we got about the Viri mention and the fact that they didn't have any slaves. Um, they actually like did their own, like grew their own stuff and like worked the fields and whatnot. It's kind of interesting. I mean, it feels like a shame that that's the mention that got annihilated by the Ark.
That was in the days when the non-men warred with each other, right? I think there was 12 non-men mansions, maybe something like that. 12 holes in mountains scattered all around.
Yeah, I did not read the glossary at the end of the Thousands Full Thought very carefully, so my history of the non-men is very patchy, unfortunately.
That's all in that first chapter of the history of Irwa. That's
Hmm.
a lot about the non-men beginnings. And I guess since we're this far, you could probably read the first little bit now without feeling scared.
Yeah, I guess. There were some parts in the Ishtirbans chapter as well where he was referring to like the other like men chains and non-men. Um, I got a little bit lost because I was not really picking up on all the references. So I suppose it might be useful to get some setting up on the history a little bit.
I was trying to find the section with Saban, whether he
Rip.
is alive or dead.
There was a real surreal moment for him there when he was trying to yell at his younger self.
I I don't know how I felt about that. Like on one hand, I was happy to see that there was a payoff to what happened, to what he saw in the Warrior Prophet. But I'm also not very. I didn't really make much sense of why it happened in the first place. Like, how did he end up at Mangetta? Like, does it have something to do with the topoi? Like, are they somehow connected? Um, or like, what is it about his death that he got to see himself in the past, well, or the future at Mangetta?
Was that the first death that we got a first person view of?
Hmm.
Mm, I, well, I mean, Conphis gets his head chopped off by Sabon, and I think that's that. I mean, that's definitely written from his POV, from Comphis's POV. But you don't get to see what happened to what happened to Comphis after he died. That's for sure.
Hmm. Well, who knows, I guess.
I didn't really expect to get an answer out of you, but
It,
yeah, I was just like, okay, but like, why? Why him?
you can definitely assume that Dagliash is a topoi, though, right?
I guess it
And
is now.
and who knows what connects them. I think it's kind of, it talked about how at first they like used it as like a cover so they could attack Minurocus, and then afterwards they like used it to defend the second time they went there. So the first time it was used in like deception, and the second time it was used for righteousness. But there's been lots of use of it. I even think it talked about how they used to call it the lilac because its walls were always painted in red, like
Hmm.
in crimson. So lots of blood has been shed.
Did you find the section you were looking for, Steve?
I think,
It's at the very, very end.
yeah, because he is he just gets from the spider, gets cinched into nothingness, but he's still fighting. I thought he managed to survive. Let me see. Maybe I misread it, which is most
Well,
likely.
he's looking. Why don't you tell me what you thought of the battle, Katerina? Did you get a good perspective of maybe what the landscape was like or the battle at all?
Well, I well, okay. I have to confess, I probably should have looked at the map, but I didn't. So I was I had a general sense of like what was going on. I was a little bit confused like where everyone was. Um but I guess the thing I enjoyed about the battle is that we had like several groups that we were following, and I'm not like the biggest fan of the bird's eye perspective. Like I probably enjoy more when it's like written from like a like more like like a tight perspective, like from like someone like the actual person's like on the battlefield. So I like that we get to follow like Sabon and Proyas and the mandate schoolmen, and then we kind of switch between like those like three or four characters. Um, so it was one of the more enjoyable battles in the series, for me at least.
I think he maybe did. I thought he survived. I thought he was still alive. I'm sorry. I totally misread it.
How do you feel now that you just found out poor
Well,
Sabum's
I was
probably
about
dead?
to I was about to send Katerina like a celebratory message, but I was like, I better wait. Like Saban, didn't know if he had gotten to it yet, but because I thought I managed to survive, and I was a little bit bummed because I was hoping he would die. It'd make it more meaningful, make the battle more meaningful if someone we've had around for so long would die. But I think, yeah, I just misread that. So
I mean, like I think that it makes sense that you would like it lends itself to be misread, perhaps. I got a little bit confused initially as to like what was happening to him, but then I realized that we were back at Mangetta and reliving sort of the vision he had in the Warrior Prophet when he saw himself, his own corpse on the battlefield, and then it all sort of made sense.
I forgot all about that from the Warrior Prophet.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I forgot all about that.
What
Um,
was the golden coffer that was the size of a dollhouse? What is the golden coffer? Is that what Acamian was promising
Hmm.
all along?
so I had two theories when it first appeared. I had two theories. I was like, either it's a message, some kind of a message from the consult to Kellis, or it's a bomb.
Oh,
And then then it when it didn't blow up immediately, I was like, well, I guess it's not a bomb. But then it did blow up, so I was like, okay, it was a bomb. Um,
And maybe a
but
message. There was definitely writing on it.
that's true. There was something written on it. I thought maybe it was just a countdown. Um, Also, I was surprised that Kellis was able to read uh inquiry scripts, but apparently he can't. Um, it it was surprising. I did not expect that to happen, and I guess my question now is why, like, if all the whole time the console had the ability to like nuke them, why didn't they just do it at the very beginning of the Great Ordeal? Like, why bother with like that in the with the march, and why bother trying to trying to win over them on a battlefield? Why not just like drop a bomb on the Great Ordeal or drop a bomb on Momam when Kellis was still there?
Hmm.
Good, good question, I guess.
Um, so this there was one line that kind of stuck out to me on 357 at the bottom. The judges would execute only those they found coupling with the carcasses.
Yeah, I admit there were a couple of moments in that chapter where I wasn't sure if he was referring to the men or if he was referring to the string. I think that was on purpose. But yeah, I was reading it and I was like, wait, is he describing the string or are these the soldiers?
Either way, it's bad.
Yeah, but the difference between the two seems to be diminishing.
Yeah, I kind of thought of them as thought of. I kind of thought it was referring to the shrink because of how they've been referring to them as the skinnies and kind of um, I'll say dehumanizing them because they're not humans, but kind of they're objects and not they're yeah. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty dark, and I think that might kind of allude to what the meat is making them. It reminds me of a quote. I don't remember. It's from some philosopher, maybe Nietzsche, where he says, "Be careful how long you stare into the abyss, like lest you become the abyss yourself."
Right. Lest the abyss stares back at you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I did get the sense that the men were becoming more strength like. Um, Even like Sabon, you kind of get a little like you get hints like from his perspective that it's becoming very. Ugh, I don't want to. I don't want to use like he feels something when he's witnessing the violence and the slaughter.
What does he say when he's preparing for that last battle? I don't want. I'm tired of eating chicken, or I don't want to eat chicken anymore.
I was wondering if that was like alluding to him wondering what the bashrag would taste like.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I thought it could have meant. Yeah,
It's
I
ready
think
for
this
some
was
new meat.
yeah.
Terrible.
But so why do you think that Kellis sacrifice Saban? Or like, first of all, do you think that Kellis knew that that was the council's plan, that they were going to just blow everything up? And second, why did he take Saban to Dagliash, and then why did he leave him there?
Hmm.
Proyas was so mad that he wasn't going to be the one, and he might not be as mad now. The whole introspection Saban went through too at the end, where he was like talking about how he finally like truly believed in Kellis once Kellis proved to him that it was all a lie, that power was his like foundation of belief, until the very, very end, right when he died, and then he was trying to tell his younger self not to believe Kellis. But
I was quite surprised by that. Like, I guess the thing that surprised me was his surprise at the fact that he was going to hell. Like, you would have thought that someone like Saban wouldn't, like, he says, like, he believed in Kellis's power and like Kellis's might, but I don't know that he necessarily believed the religious aspect of it. So I didn't expect him to expect that he was going to be saved, which apparently he did. Or maybe everyone kind of believes that they're not going to
Hmm.
be damned when they die. So that was a bit surprising. But I mean, it's kind of an interesting take on like what faith means and why people choose to follow, like for what reasons they choose to follow someone else.
Hmm.
what do the non-men refer to? I think they're like trying. They say they're trying to escape from the starving sky.
Well, what's the quote of the beginning of this chapter? What's the epigraph?
Yeah,
Even the
so the
gods
yeah.
must eat.
Yeah.
So are any of the gods good? It also seemed like there was a moment when I forgot who it was that was fighting, but they like decided that maybe if they fought valiantly enough, Gilgael could save their soul at the very end. If they did something awesome enough for the god of war could save them.
The Gilgael has been suspiciously absent for most of this series, I feel like. Like there are a
Hmm.
lot of people invoking Gilgael, but he's not really showed up, if unless you're counting the Kelmomis's prophecy.
Hmm.
He's been pretty absent.
Yetwer's really the only overly active god.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a Jokely, but we're still I'm still on the fence about that.
Hmm. In the fence and a Jokely? A Jokely?
On the fence of whether he's actually involved in what's going on in Momam and whether he's
Hmm.
chasing Kilmomas or not.
Daniel took a deep breath and closed his eyes.
Yeah, it looks like it takes a lot to remain composed for
Yeah.
you, Daniel.
Yeah, we'll see. But none of them are making a blatant appearance. It's only Yetwer.
And how's that working out for Yatwer?
They killed Maithanet. That's
Yeah, but Sorwheel is. I mean, doesn't sound like it's really going according to plan.
plans are weird in this. You never know what
It's true.
according to plan really means until long after the plans are over.
It's true.
Did Isterbint go according to Kellis's plan? That's, that's still debatable, I guess. It seems like it's going to work out for him in the end, and he might get most of his kids back.
Well, in pieces, though.
Yeah,
What's left of them?
they're missing internal parts. But,
And maybe some external as well.
Yeah.
oh,
Who
that's
who
right.
knows who knows what they did to Moengus? I
When the Skin Eaters and Akamian and them came out of the mountain, they were changed, but it didn't change them all that much. Irrevocably changed, but really only Sarl was the crazed one. So we'll see how much this mountain changes these little kids.
Hmm.
Because that's what they all are. They're all little kids, right?
well, some of them are part Dunyan, but yes, I would agree. They're very young. And the skin eaters didn't have to suffer weeks or maybe months of like physical and psychological torture. They did got chased by hell, but I don't. I mean, I don't know what's worse. It's kind of hard to tell.
They just saw all the Imwama slave barracks and all the dead bones of the old dead slaves. They didn't see the living, none of the living things. But it felt darker. It felt darker for Sorwell. I would have probably rather been with the Skin Eaters than going down in the boat.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, if as you know, like if you know how it ends, then I guess well, I don't know. At least Sorwell like sort of has his sanity and all his limbs. Um, most of the skin eaters didn't make it, as far as I remember. But
The Kamian and Mimara seem to only have lost a little piece of themselves in there.
Mamara seems a little
yeah,
different. Yeah.
but also developed a probably lifelong addiction to non-men ash.
Will the Great Ordeal be addicted to shrink meat?
Plenty of Shrang, I guess, to eat.
They seem very, very eager to kill um, and do other stuff to this ring. So I would say kind of. I would say not, maybe not just eat their enemy.
Yeah. It's bad news.
Yeah, the non-men quarry seems much more pure. Eating the shrink meat seems like all the negative aspects of the quarry and very little of the positive aspects. Except they're not hungry anymore. And I think that was important to them at the end when they were all starving and they killed their slaves and they're just wondering what they're eating next.
There was
But I
a
mean, Maimara or Norikamin ever tasted cooked nanmen, so maybe it's not like the type of the meat. Maybe it's just more the method of preparation. I don't know.
it's all of the preparation, seasoning.
It's
This
like some fish are poisonous unless you like cook them the right way.
Better be really good fish. There was a quote on 361 from I think the section's from Proyas, but the reminder that nothing blinds a man to the future more than the outrage at what is past, the realization that he had become one of those requiring such reminders.
It's a nice quote. Proyas has a lot to process.
Yeah, he's been through a lot.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about why Saban was the one to go. Did doesn't sound did Callus do certain things to Proyas so he wouldn't go, so he would survive? I don't know.
Kellis has the final say. He can just tell him he's not going, and he's not going. But who knows why he did all of the things he did to him, all of the transgressions.
Yeah, I don't know. I would be curious to find out why exactly Sabon, like if that was the plan all along to have Sabon die, or or maybe like I guess it kind of comes down to whether Callus knew about the bomb. 'Cause if he didn't, then maybe he was planning for Sabon to live.
Hmm.
And they do talk about the fact that if like one of like the main reason Proyas wants to go to Dagliash is because he just wants to end it.
Oh yeah, he's trying to like break through the line, and he almost dies, falls off his horse or something. And Saban wants to live, and he wants all the glory, and yet he gets, I don't know the proper word for it, salted, I guess. I guess he gets salted just like the mages get salted in the end. I don't know how big the bomb was, but Kellis said hide from Dagliash, so just nobody wanted to even be able to see whatever was coming for them.
And then Callus disappears.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, bye guys."
He tells him to flee and then he disappears.
Um. Yeah, I did wonder like where is he like did he disappear just to hide from the explosion, or did he have like a place to be? I don't know. So I figured like maybe if there was a message from the console, maybe they like wanted to meet with him. Like maybe he actually went somewhere, but I don't know. Maybe he also just wanted to be away when that thing blows up, which is understandable.
Look at the time. I have to go. Bye. Yeah.
And Saban's just sitting up there careless. He's coming back. I know he's coming back. And
Yeah, I
then
mean,
he doesn't come back. He made you think he did, though, for a second, Steve.
I thought he did. I thought they
I'm
kind of left
sorry.
it open a little bit, but
Um,
I was wrong.
I mean, I feel in the grand scheme of things, like Sabon's death feels like waste.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, there's no reason. Like, he didn't do anything at Dagliash. I think that would justify him dying there. Like he kind of died for nothing.
Are you not happy he's dead?
I
It was a bittersweet.
mean, it was. I felt a little bad for him, I guess. Um, I
Sabon was
don't.
growing on you.
Maybe a little. But he did mess it up towards the end again. I don't know. He's just like someone who's like so obsessed with like glory and just always being like the most powerful and most like competent. Or I don't know. I don't. It's just not so. Not someone that I would really like. I wouldn't really enjoy his company, I think.
He gets to be remembered forever as the most powerful, competent man to die in Dagliash now.
Yeah, I still think it's a pretty dumb death. Like, couldn't have Kellis just like, like I'm sure that Kellis could have like transported at least one person away from Dagliash. Like maybe not the entire legion or like how many people were there, but at least like a couple of people.
Is it because Callus knew he would be damned? That Sabon would be damned, and that's why he left him? Well, that's why he sent him.
He wanted someone to go hang out with Serway.
I don't know if that's how it works. I don't know, but maybe someone was not useful anymore. Maybe Proyas, maybe Callus thought that Proyas needed to be left on his own, like left to his own devices.
Sabon's a lesson.
Possibly. I don't know.
You would make Proeas feel better, or well, it seemed like they were kind of bonding a little bit. I mean,
No,
Yeah.
Proyas is like truly alone.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I mean, Kellis says when he sees the coffer for the first time, he says something uh, like
Oh shit.
Sabon asks Sabon asks him what it means or what it says, and he says that it means that not everyone can be saved. And I didn't know if he was at the time. I didn't know if he was referring to like the battle, or like to the people who were at Dagliash, or he was like speaking more broadly, like if he was talking about like salvation in general, and the fact that he would have to sacrifice some people in order to stop the consult and prevent damnation.
In this in this book, physics and metaphysics get obscured a lot. It's hard to tell which is which at times.
Yeah, and he also says that that is a good thing that not everyone can be saved, which I don't know. Like, I also don't know what that means or what he's referring to.
Because he can only take so many people with him.
Well, he didn't take anyone.
Oh, I mean, that's his end goal. There's only room for so many. And Sabon was damned, so
But then, I mean, that's dangerously close to what the console is trying to do. but
Maybe
like they're
he's
all.
maybe he's saying he doesn't want to go to heaven with the consult. Doesn't want the synthes flying around up there.
But
Or
if I mean, if the console succeeds, there is no hell, or people don't go to hell. But I think there's also no heaven.
There's Callus.
there's been very little talk about heaven,
That is
and
true.
and it
Yeah.
seems like it just might be a place where gods eat too, because gods must eat.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
have we well to everyone. Have you seen the TV show, the sitcom, The Good Place?
No, is it good?
A, a little.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna. Well, it reminds me of of that show a little bit, but I'm not gonna spoil it then for anyone else either. Like if they have not seen it, but there is a twist of sorts that would be funny if something similar happened also in this book.
We'll have to talk about it after we stop recording because
You're
I'll never
saying
watch it. So.
this series could end with a big laugh?
More of a maybe incredulous laugh, possibly.
Hmm.
So, do we know what happened to Secres, the mandate schoolman who flies off to battle it out with Orang, and then we never hear of him?
Nope. We
And
only know that he finally found his old foe and kind of maybe went crazy. Like, seemed like a lot of the army was beginning to go crazy and just break lines and charge. But we don't know anything about the aftermath of Dagliash yet.
So,
Just that we had a like an atom bomb go off in the fantasy world.
yeah, I was a little surprised that Orang would be there if he knew that everything was going to blow up within the next few minutes or hours.
Man, you want to watch it. If you know the coolest fireworks about to go off, you want to at least watch it.
Yeah, maybe from a safe distance.
yeah, safe distance. Two two big chapters full of lots of battles. I didn't
But it was
felt like a lot.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did enjoy it.
Isterbent was there's very little battle going on. It was more of like a horror filled.
Journey.
Mm, yeah, I was gonna say amusement park ride.
Yeah.
They get on the thing and it just clacks them down into hell.
Hmm.
And it talked about like Sorwell is saying how like horrible it must be to be down in what they call the gloom, where no one could talk and everyone was silent. And he told them that even the gloom is a blessed interval between what awaits. So like damnation is so bad that even these ghouls like got it easy compared to what it's gonna be like for them as soon as they're dead. Even the tall down there eating swine in complete darkness, like that's a good fate for them. And it like alluded to the fact that they were kind of like hiding from there, trying to hide from the starving sky and the silence of as close to the outside as they could get.
Hmm.
Can we take a moment to appreciate Oinerol and his sacrifice? I felt like it was like one of the few like nice people that we've met in the entire series. Like someone was actually trying to do like the good thing, the right thing, and then he just ends up dying this stupid death.
Seems like when most people try and do the right thing or like the honorable thing in this series, they die terribly. Something happens to them. Yeah.
I think it's interesting you're calling the non-men nice. Like, like he didn't kill tons of people before or have a bunch of slaves or
I thought he was like a teacher. I thought he was not a warrior. And that's why every other non-man just mocked him.
yeah, I think that might have been true, but I can't imagine he didn't kill anyone in thousands of years.
Okay, fair enough. But like just compared to all the other non-men that Sorwheel encounters in his Jerevanth, he was like trying to do like he was like one of the few who actually saw what was happening to them, and but uniting or allying themselves with like the creatures that killed all their wives and daughters might not be like a good idea.
Maybe he went to heaven or to a less bad hell. Maybe he's just with Sabon and Serway, where the other non-men I think are much deeper in the hell.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's just like after all the talk, like after all like the whole time when he talked about like how horrible, like what horrible fate awaits the non-men when they die, and like how, to what lengths they go to like prevent their deaths. To then have him die, I felt so much worse because of that.
And it seemed like Sorville realized he knew that he went to die and that he was just supposed to make sure that he told him the message after he raged and killed him and he was grieving.
Yeah, yeah, that's what seems to have happened. Um, but so is this the end of Asteraband? Like, are they all just gone? Because if that's it, then I'm a little bit disappointed. I was like looking forward to, exploring Asteraband and like living with the non-men and learning from them, and it all went down in flames pretty quickly.
I, I don't know. I'd like to think there's more to explore there, but
I guess just like Dagliash, we don't quite know what happens afterwards. Here we only know that Serway started seeing her father's dread portion. Who knows what that'll do to the mountain. And that some guy came up from the furthest bowels and raged out on the king and lit him on fire.
that was pretty funny. Oh, can you guys think of anything else?
It was sad to me how I think when Oinara was like looking at, or no, when the who's the soul that was with Sorwell? I can't think of his name. When he was looking at his lover, I think he was thinking like the disgust for making as a woman with a man and how like that's blasphemous in itself, and that I think is basically what all non-men have become now, right? There's no women in Istrabinth.
Well, there's the Mwama.
I think that that's even more like blasphemous to them. That's I don't know though.
But I think, well, the way I understood it when he was talking about it being blasphemous, I thought that was like surreal making a judgment
Mm.
about what he was remembering. Like, I don't think that was the non-man
Thinking that
thinking. It was
what he
that,
did was bad.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong, but the way I read it, I thought it was like, yeah, Sorwell's reaction, like Sorwell's gut reaction to, like, first reaction, the way, like, his first reaction to that memory, and that then it followed with like him also feeling like the, like, profound love and like the history that like the soul inside him had with that other non-man.
That soul inside of him, they said, was like the most evil of all of the non-men too. So
Yeah.
that that bad deed was a speck of sand on a beach of all the bad shit that guy's done, probably. So you're probably right. It was more Sorwill judging. That chapter, it becomes hard to tell what is
Yeah.
Sorwill's thought and speech and what is the cauldron on his head's thought and speech.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know that we ever had any information about how non-men feel about like non-heterosexual relationships. I don't think it ever really got mentioned.
Mm.
But, you know, as you say, it's kind of hard to tell what Sorwell's thinking and what thoughts are not his own.
Almost like a possession story. He's struggling, going back and forth with who's in control.
And now we'll see if he walks out of the mountain more than he was when he walked into the mountain. If he still possesses like non men historic thoughts, or if he's back to just more being the little confused kid again. Probably not, but we'll see how he comes out of the mountain.
I'm curious to see that. He went through a lot, so to then just forget everything would be a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But his brain could also be just like scrambled, um, because like the separation from the helm wasn't very. It didn't seem like it was very subtle.
And the connection is a man and a non-men together, and they're not the same either.
Mm.
The ghouls didn't deal with thousands of years very well. And it seems like Sorwell kind of had thousands of years of thoughts in his head abruptly.
I think he can't come out the same, right? He'd change somehow after that experience. But it's so real, so who knows?
Well, he loved Serway when he went in, and I have a feeling he's going to love Serway when he comes out.
Seems like everyone loves Sarway.
It does.
I'll be a Team Theliopa. Whether she's weird or not, she at least kind of guessed what Kellis was, whereas the rest of them didn't.
Yeah, it seems like most people tend to underestimate how intelligent she is.
Mm.
because of her negative human traits, her stuttering and just complete awkwardness, inability to look people in the eye.
Wardrobe. It's funny that there's a few diehards that come by every week. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, Frank's awesome. It's awesome to hear his thoughts. I'm hoping to do like maybe a little private group where we can all just
Hmm,
talk afterwards. Anyone who kind of read along,
that'd be cool.
I'll host it, Steve. You don't have to come, but you're invited.
Cool. So before we go, we could do outros, but I mean, we can all be found on pagechewing.com, basically, in a nutshell. You can tag us there if you want to talk, or we have all the threads, the discussion threads, and I try and post the links there for the podcast and the YouTube videos. I'm a little bit behind, but yeah, go check us out there. That's the best place to get in touch with us and join in on the fun. So, thanks. It's always a pleasure talking to you guys and this series. It's wild, but awesome. So we will see everyone in 2 weeks, or maybe next week. We'll let you know. We'll
Yep.
let you know.
We will see you guys for the end.
For the end. Yeah.
Bye.